Welcome back, everybody, here to the Me Future Talks stage. My name is Leah Steinacker, and I'm very happy to welcome you here at Mercedes-Benz. We are on day 3 out of 4 here at CES. We've been offering you discussion panels and expert interviews on a range of topics. We've heard about AI and the future of mobility. We've talked about smart cities and the impact of technology on our daily lives. Right now, this upcoming talk is going to be all about on-demand technologies. I'm very happy to have 2 experts on stage. Our first speaker is the head of global business development at the leading developer and operator of on-demand transit systems called VIA. His name is Zack Wasserman. And our second speaker was born in Brazil, then moved to Germany when the wall came down in 1989, and then joined Daimler, importantly, in 1996. He's now here as their senior manager of shared mobility and transportation. And his name is Dirk Reimelt. I'm very happy to welcome them both. So please give a round of applause to Zack Wasserman and Dirk Reimelt. Dirk. Hi, Zack.
Hi.
Welcome. So we want to talk about the sharing economy, ride-sharing to be exact, and we want to hear a little bit about the impact that smart pooling services can have on cities in the future. So, Zack, I'd like to start with you. We've all heard a lot about various on-demand transportation services, but VIA focuses on pooled ride-sharing of multiple passengers traveling in the same direction, and then there's a flat flat rate for every ride. So why did you choose to concentrate on that kind of a setup?
Sure, so maybe a little bit of context first. VIA is a developer and an operator of on-demand transit systems. You use an app, you request a ride, a vehicle picks you up, and then we aggregate you with other people going in the same direction in a very efficient way. So the value proposition to the user is that you get the convenience and the flexibility of a custom trip, but because it's being shared, the cost per ride is significantly lower, as you pointed out. So in addition to operating this consumer-facing service, which we run in Chicago and New York and Washington, D.C., do about 300,000 rides a week across those markets, we also partner with transit agencies and cities around the world who want to use our technology to offer their own on-demand transit service, or in some cases, want us to come in and provide an end-to-end solution where in addition to the technology, we also bring the vehicles, the drivers, and provide everything they need to basically launch their own system right away. And this is tied into sort of our long-term vision, which is about democratizing on-demand mobility, basically making it affordable to people from all walks of life through sharing. It's only by sharing a ride efficiently that you can allow everybody to afford a ride whenever they want one.
So, but if I understand correctly, what sets it apart from other ride-sharing services is that it's more like a dynamic bus line rather than a taxi service, right?
That's exactly right. So it's VIA fits between sort of the taxi and the private vehicle and public transit. We are completely dynamic. We're completely flexible. There are no static routes or schedules. Everything is continuously optimized in real time to conform to sort of the ebb and flow of where people are and where they want to go.
Right. And so, Dirk, Mercedes-Benz Vans invested $50 million in this joint venture, and that's basically a fusion of an engineering giant with this very modern on-demand technology. What developments in the markets have inspired, a transporter giant? We might think of Mercedes as a company that would like people to own their cars. What has inspired you to invest in ride-sharing, such as VIA as a service?
Yeah, so since many years we are facing that the cities are increasing in urbanization, people are moving more to the cities and traffic is increasing and people tend to not buy cars anymore. Unfortunately, not good for our business, but so we need to move, and there are ride-sharing companies like VIA or others who are coming into the market and offering mobility solutions to the cities. And we know from several talks to the cities that they need solutions to offer mobility for people besides the ownership of the car. So we think we have a perfect car at MB Vans, which is our mattress, and which is running also perfectly in VIA in New York, for example. And this car enables us to offer, together with a powerful technology provider, a ride-sharing service to ease the pain of the cities and reduce traffic and emissions and congestion by offering people and getting them into our cars and getting brand contact.
So you've just mentioned actually the impact on cities. I want to go a little bit deeper into that. So Zack, can you tell us a little bit about the consequences that you've witnessed so far? You've mentioned Chicago, New York, Washington, right, where you're active. What kinds of impacts have you actually seen in those cities where you're operating?
So I think a few different things are worth mentioning. First of all, because we're aggregating rides in a very efficient way, we're able to limit or even reduce the number of vehicle miles traveled. So if you compare the number of people that VIA is able to aggregate into our vehicles on an hourly basis, we are putting more people into our vehicles than any of the other transportation network companies, Uber or Lyft, for example, who are operating in New York City. And this is based on publicly accessible data that we're able to request from the relevant local regulators, so we're able to basically benchmark our efficiency against everybody else. So limiting vehicle miles traveled is an important part of reducing congestion, which has all kinds of positive knock-on effects. It limits greenhouse gas emissions. It makes it easier to get around cities. I think in the long term, it can increase the economic competitiveness of cities too, because it allows cities to offer their residents seamless on-demand transportation without the huge investments in fixed physical systems like, bus rapid transit, subway systems, even fixed route bus systems that cities have conventionally used to move people around. And the other thing that I'll mention is that because equity is so important to us in our partnerships with other cities and transit agencies around the world, with Capital Metro, for example, which is the transit agency in Austin, Texas, with the city of Arlington, Texas. Next up will be the city of West Sacramento in California. We're providing this transportation as a service where people are able to basically take a VIA ride that's subsidized by the city, and people will be able to call for a ride, call a call center, even if they don't have a smartphone, which I think is really nice. So that way we're truly democratizing mobility by allowing people who don't have a smartphone to get a ride when they want one. These rides are also fully compliant with the ADA, which is the Americans with Disabilities Act, which means that people who are on a wheelchair, for example, can also get a ride that accommodates their needs.
So we've heard a little bit now about the cities that you've been working with. Can you explain your role as VIA a little bit more in terms of, are you advising these cities? Is it a full-on corporation, and how to get the most out of this service? How exactly do you actually work together with city governments?
For sure, I think that's a great question. This isn't the sort of thing that we can just put in a bag and then toss over a fence and run away from and hope that the partner is going to be successful using. So there are two models, like I mentioned. There's this licensing model where we provide the technology, and then this transportation as a service model. In both cases, we are working very closely with the city to understand their needs, their budget constraints, and their policy goals, and help them scope a service that really makes sense and aligns with that vision. So we work with them to define where the service should be, the hours it should operate, the number of vehicles that we need to provide an acceptable quality of service, what the fare structure should look like, and any other exceptional needs that they have. And then whether they're licensing the technology or we're providing this end-to-end solution, we're working with them to sort of continuously optimize it on an ongoing basis to make sure that we're transporting as many people as possible at the lowest cost to the rider, at the lowest cost to the city.
And so, Dirk, since Zack just mentioned again the affordability of the service, we've heard that it complies with the ADA, the American Disabilities Act. So, I'm thinking this sounds a lot about improving access, right, to people, and affordability even for a high-end brand such as Mercedes-Benz and MB vans. Is that a focus for you at this point? Do you think improving affordability of all of these amazing Mercedes services is becoming more and more of a focus?
Yes, for sure. It's becoming more and more important. And if you look at the whole Daimler company, we have several offers for mobility. So there is My Taxi, for example, for the taxi mobility, and the on-demand ride-sharing, which we are now doing together with VIA in this joint venture in Europe, is focused between a taxi and public transportation. So it should be a little bit above, from price level, above the public transportation. And we are trying to establish it in Europe, or in Germany especially. We announced last year in December that we will launch it in Berlin in March this year.
Okay.
And there it will be an extension of the public transportation system of the city of Berlin. And they're offering with minivans with 6 to 8 people's capacity, a dynamic bus route where people can seamlessly go from point A to point B by moving to the next virtual bus stop, which is shown on the app, like they do it on a normal bus system, where they would move to the real bus station, right. And they are dropped off at a virtual bus stop close to the destination where they want to go. And so this, if you look at the whole portfolio of our company, there are several offers for mobility, from ownership, car sharing, ride sharing, taxi matchmaking, and up to Movil, for example, where we integrate everything in one system.
So you've just brought up the expansion to Germany. Since a number of on-demand technologies in the past, or companies have had regulatory issues in Germany when it comes to their expansion there. Do you see any sort of change or difference in the German market to? We've heard about 3 American cities. Is it a very different way of operating? What kinds of differences are you expecting here when you're expanding to a country like Germany?
Yeah, there are huge differences. In US, it's a company like Via can offer a service we call it own operations, where the customer asks for the mobility from Via, and the Via delivers the mobility offers via its drivers. In Germany, this is not possible due to the legislation. In other European countries it is, like in UK. There we are trying to do the same model as in US. And in Germany, we are going within the law, together with partnerships. For example, in Berlin with our partner BVG, Berliner Verkehrstriebsgesellschaft, who has a concession to run a bus system in Germany within the law. And we are in discussions with the government of the cities to make this happen within the law. And besides this, we know from the government in Germany that they are also rethinking about the laws in Germany, because they have been created 50, 60, 70 years back, when all this technology was not in place, and nobody could imagine what is possible, and there need to be some adaptation. But it will surely not be as liberal as it is, for example, in the United States.
Right.
And we have 3 types, one more in Europe, which we will offer through our joint venture. So one is the own operations for non-regulated markets. Then on the other hand, the licensing model, as Zack already said. And we call it transportation as a service, where we cooperate with either city or companies, transportation companies who already have an offer in the city, to extend the offer with our vans and the technology.
And so before we open it up to the audience, Zack, I'd love to hear, so this is a very specific case in Germany, right, in terms of its regulatory context. Are there any plans for further European expansion, or can you imagine maybe in the future even completely different markets?
So you read my mind, actually. That's where I was going to go next. I mean, just to elaborate on what Dirk was saying a few minutes ago, we have fortunately inbound interest now from transit agencies and municipalities around Germany and even across Europe, who are also interested in providing their own on-demand transit system. And I think everything you said is absolutely right. The German market is much more regulated. I think historically it's a little bit slower moving, but things are really heating up in Germany, especially since the BVG announcement. The amount of interest that we're seeing has really ticked up, which is very exciting. And I don't think that the expansion we foresee will be limited to Germany. I think that really around Europe, I think the idea of doing on-demand transit is clearly sort of a concept whose time has come.
Right. Wonderful.
There's a huge demand from the cities for such solutions, because, as Zack said before, there is no possibility to increase infrastructure or to add more subway system, or it's heavily investment intense. And by using existing roads, existing cars, and existing technology, that's an easy to implement solution for the cities.
And are cities at this point approaching you? I mean, the cities or other levels of government are approaching you, your joint venture basically, to want to partner? Okay. So if we have any city government representatives in the audience or other interested individuals, you can approach them afterwards. Are there any questions for now, right now, for Zack or Dirk about VIA or about MB Van's investment in it, about the joint venture, or about its effects on cities? Have we just explained it pretty comprehensively? Were you all listening intently, clearly? What if I come up to the audience and just prompt someone? No? No questions? Wonderful. Well then, thank you very much to Zack and to Dirk, and we will be back here at 2 p.m. Don't miss out. Thank you.